Welcome back to New Book Tuesday on CPL Radio, a radio station located inside of a library, the Cedarburg Public Library in Cedarburg, Wisconsin. My name is Jeff Messerman. I am the Adult Services Librarian. Here are two more librarians who would love to introduce themselves to you.
I'm Casey St. Clair, Head of Youth Services in the Children's Department.
And I'm Heidi Griffin, and I'm downstairs in the Children's Department as well.
All right, you know our name, rank, and location. And we are ready to talk books today. The three of us all have new arrivals or relatively new arrivals, and here is Heidi with one of those now.
All right, well, I actually have something a little different than I normally read. I went for a kind of a science fiction / historical fiction, historical being Y2K.
Oof.
Ouch. Yeah, that packs a punch, doesn't it? So I read The First State of Being by Erin Entrada Kelly. And like I said, it takes place during Y2K. Well, Y2K is looming. It is actually August of 1999. And we meet Michael, who is 12, and he lives with his mom in Delaware. And he is very, very, very anxious about what is going to happen with Y2K, as most of us were at that time if you were alive.
I was fine.
There was, the unknown is always scary. So he has been spending his time stockpiling supplies. His mom is working many jobs to support him and her together. So he feels like he needs to be the one that it has to take care of them for this unknown happening. So he's stockpiling all of this supplies by all means necessary. He's buying some, and also, unfortunately, he is stealing some things from the bodega on the corner.
I'm curious, what is he stockpiling? Is he making good decisions like rice and beans, or is he like
Captain Crunch?
Yeah.
He is stockpiling canned goods.
Sweet.
So
right.
Yes,
Yeah.
he's being very
Not
particular.
all of his baseball cards or something?
No. So,
So many sweet tarts.
yes, all the candy. So Michael's mom still thinks that he needs a babysitter, even though he is 12, and he's kind of frustrated about that fact. However, he has a 15-year-old babysitter named Gibby, who he thinks is quite lovely and quite cute. So he doesn't really mind her company. So she kind of keeps him in line and in track, and they're hanging out one day and they see this strange kid just kind of sitting on a bench. He's dressed weird and they're not quite sure like where he's come from. So they approach him and they start chatting, and the way he talks seems weird as well. He starts making references to like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and he's asking where the nearest mall is because he really wants to go to the mall. And finally, after some pressing, he reveals that he is a time traveler from 2199, and that he chose to come to 1999 because it's his favorite time period and he really wants to visit them all.
I agree with him. That was the best year for movies,
Yes.
I swear. 99 was awesome.
He is obsessed with malls and some other pop culture. So the chapters of this book go back and forth between Michael, and then will also be reading some audio transcript between Ridge, who is the boy from the future, his brothers and his mom, because they don't know what happened to Ridge. They realize that he time traveled, but they don't know where he's at.
Sure.
So you kind of go through all of that too. And then you also find out why he was able to time travel, because his mom constructed the first spatial teleportation module. So
Is she Elon Musk's future wife or offspring?
My mom just belonged to a mahjong club. That's pretty good.
What a cool mom. Hell yeah.
Wow.
So Michael, with his anxiety over what's going to happen with Y2K, keeps asking Ridge, please tell me what's going to happen. Please, like, let us know what's going to happen. And Ridge keeps refusing because he's afraid if he gives away any information, it could alter the space-time continuum and cause something drastic. But I really like what he says to him in the book. So he says, the first state of being, he said, that's what my mom calls the present moment. It's the first state of existence. It's right now, in this moment, in this car. The past is the past. The future is the future. But this, right now, this is the first state, the most important one, the one in which everything matters. That's why I'm not going to think about the mess I left behind. That's the third state, the future. For now, I want to be here and now, listening to this terrible music with the two of you.
They playing No Doubt or something?
I'm thinking it's more like boy bands.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Oh, very good. Very good.
Yeah, so this book is really, really great. It's getting a lot of talk.
It's cool.
I really, really love all the mentions of the pop culture. For instance, Gibby is reading a Christopher Pike book that everyone is like really interested in.
I don't know.
Night of the Living Dummy or something. Yeah, the vampires on the beach or whatever.
Yes. And also like when Ridge is using the quotes from the time when he quotes Fresh Prince and is like, how are you doing? He's like, I'm just relaxing and maxing. So I mean, it's really fun, and yeah, it's a good read.
That's great. No,
Thanks for sharing.
I like the every time travel story. It's worth its metal, its weight in gold. Should have something about the fact that the present is best. That's even Star Trek. The best time travel Star Trek episodes would always say, well, here and now is really, so.
Well, the kids today, I can't believe I just said that, are enjoying Y2K and 1990s. Look, I walked into Target and I went, that's what I wore in middle school. Dear God.
Yeah. I kind of see that too. Absolutely.
We're old enough to be historical fiction.
I know. That's scary.
I'm seeing Nirvana t-shirts all over my kid's high school right now. And I thought, oh my gosh.
Can you share your story about?
Yes. My daughter wants a Nirvana shirt and has pleaded and pleaded for me to buy one. I said, I will buy you that shirt if you can tell me one song.
One song.
One song.
Not three.
Go for the easy one too,
Right? I'm like, you're in the age group that's in the title of the song. Like,
if she mentions heart-shaped box as her favorite song, you have to buy her 2 shirts, I say, because that's a deep cut,
Yes, but I'm just like, you smell like Teen Spirit, so why would you not know that song?
Yep.
Oh my, wild stuff. Excellent. Well, thank you, Heidi. That sounds like one I would have to hunt down and enjoy as well. That's a YA title in theory, or is that?
No, it's actually a J title.
Wow. Okay.
However, I think middle, like ages 8 to 10, but I still think like younger YA would enjoy this book too.
Cool. Excellent. All right. Well, let's keep things downstairs before we head upstairs, and let's talk to Casey and see what she has been reading this week. What you got?
I read a book called Whalefall by Daniel Kraus, and it was recommended to me by Sarah Finch.
Sarah's been recommending that to everybody.
Yes. I asked her, what should I read next? And she said, you should read the scientifically accurate thriller, which is a great way to describe that book. Whalefall, the term actually is a scientific term, and it is when the carcass of a whale goes all the way down to the bottom of the ocean floor and begins to decompose, and it actually creates a complex ecosystem that the little crawlers and fish eat, and it can last for decades. So I'm so geeking out on facts like that. But this book isn't bogged down with a lot of science. It's not a nonfiction book. Yeah. It is truly fiction. And the premise is Jay lives in Monterey Bay, and his dad is sort of a local legend. His name is Mitt. And in Monterey Bay, diving is sort of a cool thing to do and also part of the economy as well. It's also the place where Steinbeck's Cannery Row takes place. That's mentioned in the book. And Mitt is wrapped up in his ego and just being a diver in Monterey Bay. But lately he was feeling burnt out and just kind of washed up. and disappointed in his son that his son doesn't take an interest in deep sea diving like he did. So, trigger warning, there is mentions of suicide in the book. So if you want to fast forward through the segment, beware. So Mitt gets to a point where he commits suicide, and he does so by tying a heavy brick to himself and plunging into the ocean. And Jay is really rattled by this, not because he liked his dad, but because there's lots of like daddy issues built up in Jay. And so part of remedying that, instead of going to therapy.
What is Jay's age, may I ask?
He is lower 20s.
Okay.
Still on parents' health care.
Gotcha.
Yep. So he decides that he would like to find his father's remains in the ocean. So he gets on his suit, his goggles, everything, and heads out into the ocean to find his dad. He knows the location where he went down. And then he gets swallowed by a whale as he's diving for his dad's remains. And when you're reading it, it doesn't sound too out of this world that it could happen. Yeah. The author really does bring you to that point where all of a sudden he's being swallowed by a giant whale. And then the story goes from there. So
is the swallowing process unpleasant?
Oh, very much so. Very much. It's very smelly.
Okay.
There's lots of things in the tummy.
Sure.
There's multiple stomachs. And it turns into a survival story.
Yeah.
And also there's a little bit of mysticism in there as well.
Thing. Yeah.
And I really love this book.
Nice.
It includes some flashbacks. I would say this is for a reader who maybe liked the book The Perfect Storm,
sure,
which was more scientifically fact heavy.
Maybe The Martian by
The Martian. Yeah. But this was a really great read.
Nice.
And
nice. Cool.
I would recommend Jet or the kiddo Jay, he get therapy instead of diving, which is why I wouldn't be an author, because by page 35 I would just send them into a therapist and they'd be like, okay, problem solved.
Casey's fiction is pamphlets. She doesn't
pamphlets. It's all the first 3 chapters of a book. So all that to say, his whining does get a little bothersome towards the end of the book, but so unique, so cool. And also the topic of Whalefall is, I'm seeing it pop up in other stories. For instance, this picture book illustrator, Jason Chin, he's coming out with a picture book that depicts the Whalefall and the ecosystem that is a result of that. So kind of a cool thing to keep on your radar.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of fictional representations of being swallowed by a whale outside of our friend Jonah. And then Pinocchio.
Yes.
And this. I cannot think of anything else offhand. So that's the trifecta if you're really into the concept of being devoured by a whale, which, I don't know, on my bad days, I'd be like, I wish a whale would just swallow me.
Fans of Shark Week might like this as well. Shark Week is a religion at my house. Yes. I'm obsessed.
There's a lot of those like that, absolutely.
Right on.
Well, that's all right. Cool. 2 good books down. Let's see if we can knock out a third here. I had a book for today, but I wound up accidentally falling into this one. It's called Clara Reads Proust by Stephanie, or who has a little more French?
Stefan.
Okay. Stefan Carlier, I'm going to say. There we are. This actually is a translation. So the prose in this book is not, this is once removed from its initial intention. Good translation, though. Very extraordinarily readable. And what is it about, you may ask? Well, it's about 200 pages. No, it is. Thank you. Anyway, no, it is about a woman named Clara, and she is a hairdresser in kind of a, I don't know, I want to say a salon that has seen better days. It's run by an interesting woman named, I guess her name is Madame Habib. And, the other hairdressers there is one named Nolwenn and Patrick. And they're kind of lifer hair stylists, dressers, and the bulk of their clientele are probably 106 years old. They're just very old clientele. So it's a little bleak for Clara. Every day is the same. But she's not miserable. And then she has a boyfriend named JB who's, I don't know, he's a firefighter and he's a little shallow. So, I mean, she doesn't have any major complaints about life outside of the fact that it's kind of taken forever. One day, a strange client who talks in a sort of weird, stilted way, and is just very different than their usual clientele. A gentleman who, he dresses strange. He has bow tie, or he just doesn't look like a normal guy. But they have a relatively, have a fine interaction. And he leaves a copy of a book called Swann's Way, which is the first book of Marcel Proust's extremely long novel, multi-volume novel. I think there's 7 volumes in it. I've only read one. I've only read Swann's Way, which in itself is, one of those badge of pride things, like, I read Swann's Way. You could have T-shirts and bumper stickers.
So it's sort of like an English lit book or French lit book where it's like a badge of honor, you said, to read.
So that's what's interesting about this book and Swann's Way and Proust and everything, is that to say I've read Proust is the fast track to snobbery at most cocktail parties.
Gotcha.
However, it shouldn't be, because it then kind of repels people from maybe picking it up, because Swann's Way, which I read probably about a decade ago now, is wonderful. Mm-hmm. It actually is great. It is like no reading experience I've ever had. The series itself, it's a strange way to put it. The book, the overarching theme is in search of lost time. Although I think the original translation was like remembrances of things past, but then they kind of changed. I think one translation changed it later and it kind of stuck. People have argued, rightfully so, it is a book where nothing happens. It's a guy laying in bed, having trouble sleeping. At least the first book.
Oh,
Swann's
wow.
Way. Now, with that said,
Clara.
So Clara, yes. Clara picks this book up, and again, her reading is very kind of surface reading, just whatever's popular at the time. She's not anti-reading, but she's not a diehard reader. This book completely beguiles her, and she began. The beautiful thing of Swann's Way, and this book as well, is that it forces you, while you're reading Proust or his main character's memories, because that's what it is. He's laying in bed going through bits of his life and describing them in remarkable detail.
I love to do that before bed. That's my favorite. My brain's like, let's play flashbacks of everything you've done wrong.
I have one word for you, trazodone. Anyway, no, with Clara, it's forcing her to slow down, to notice things more, and she becomes obsessed with this book, and then all of it. And Clara reads Proust is the celebration not just of In Search of Lost Time and Proust, but it's a celebration of reading, and this is what we're doing here. And so whenever I see whenever I read a book about reading, I get really excited. And this is just one of those great cheerleader books about the magic and what happens to us when we read, and what can happen to us. And I do want to give you just one passage, if you'll indulge me. This is actually her reading, I believe, book 2, which is the Guermantes Way. That's book 2. I've never gotten to that myself. But the beginning of the Guermantes Way, which is about the Proust family moving into an apartment within the Guermantes residence, is a shock that she had not anticipated. She never wants to leave the apartment again, the apartment being the apartment in the first book, especially Francois's kitchen. She fears that the story will take her somewhere else. As she reads these pages, something verging on magical happens, making her think for the very first time that books might be better than real life.
I would agree. Sometimes I agree.
Small. The whole book is like this. It's all broken up in these very small little observations. It's an observational book. It's not like, there's some overarching plot. Things do happen. I think more happens in Clara Reads Proust than in Proust. But, wow, it's great. I read it in one sitting. I haven't done that with a book in a long time. Yeah. And it just made me, I've already put the hold in for Swann's Way. So we're going to go back in, because I actually do believe that if you sit down and read Proust and maybe read In Search of Lost Time, that it may actually rewire your brain in good ways. I think it's actually almost a medicinal book. It's very possible. So I'll let you know.
I remember checking it out from the library, and I had it tucked under my arm.
Which is a great thing to do,
And
by
you
the
were
way.
like, are you reading Swan's Way? And then you scared me from reading it.
Damn it.
Because it sounded really intimidating.
Everyone feels intimidated, and you shouldn't, because the language is so simple. It's not.
Okay, good.
The only thing that can be a struggle is that it's like Proust loses himself in his sentences. He'll start a sentence in one place, and then he seems to almost get distracted by something else. And it seems like in a single sentence, they don't actually match up. It's like the subject doesn't match the predicate, if you know what I mean.
Gotcha.
But it's not a bad thing, and you kind of get into that after a while, and it's a very easy read ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not easy if you're waiting for something to happen.
I do like books where nothing happens, like Sally Rooney
Sure.
and some other stuff.
Yeah.
So I should read it at a coffee shop, and people won't come up to me because they'll be like,
Yeah,
she's cool.
They will leave you alone.
She's cool. She's
They'll
reading
be
Proust.
mortified of you. Yeah, Proust is the original Seinfeld, I guess. Nothing. It's just a show about nothing happening. So, Clara Reads Proust by Stéphane Carlier, and it's here at this library, and I'm sure a few others in our wonderful Monarch system. And it's only about 170 pages, and I think you might accidentally love it. So there we go. Well, I should also point out that our wonderful Gemma could not join us today. She is currently at the state finals for Full Contact Connect 4. She's doing, the
Is this real or one of your made up
Well, we're just going to let the listeners decide, aren't we?
I thought you were going to say rescuing sea turtles because it's World Turtle Day.
It is. That's true. Well, she does that on the side. She's not a pro, but she is a professional full contact Connect 4 player. You drop that red one and she'll elbow you right in the chops.
A new library program idea.
Full contact Connect 4?
We have giant Connect 4 in the Library of Things for you to check out.
But we don't have that much gauze here. See?
Yes.
So
play at your own
take
risk.
it home and do your own contact sports.
None of our business, ultimately, what you do with the Library of Things. So there we are. Just return them, please. Okay, folks. Wonderful New Book Tuesday, and we hope to be at our posts next week as well. Until then, happy reading. Read a lot. Read often. Come see us and tell us what you're reading. And we love that because it's bookish conversations. We live for them. Take care.